Good day, everybody. My topic is application and system development. The first topic, the first part, is the software lifecycle development process. It consists of 6 items, starting from planning, analysis, design, implementation, testing and integration, and maintenance. The phases are phase 1, the requirement or collection. The requirement is the first stage in the IDLC, which is the System Development Lifecycle acronym. It is conducted by the senior team members with inputs from all the stakeholders. The stakeholders are the people in the organization and domain experts in the industry. Planning for quality assurance requirements and recognition of risk involves is also done at this stage. The recognition of risk at the first stage is very important, so you'll know how to plan everything. Phase 2 is your feasibility study, right? Once the requirement analysis phase is completed, the next step is to define and document software needs. Alright, this is to ensure proper documentation for everybody to understand. For example, in case someone gets fired from the development team, the proper documentation must be there so that the new person that comes in will understand what the other person was doing before. Right? And there's a good reason for documentation. Right? There are mainly 5 types of feasibility checks: economic, legal, operation feasibility, technical, and schedule. Each of them come with a question, and you should answer these questions before you move on to phase 3. Right? Alright, the 3 following activities occur: bug fixing, upgrade, and enhancement. Alright, 3 of them are basically self-explanatory. In the picture above, you saw only 6 stages, but there are actually 6 in some cases and 7 in some cases, depending on the quality of the organization. The next topic is the waterfall model. This is a sequential model that divides software development into predefined phases. Each phase must be completed before the next phase can begin, with no overlap between phases. That means if you are in the design phase, right, you should complete the design phase 100% before you can even move on to the coding. And by doing this, there is no overlaps into the coding phase. Right? This model was introduced in 1970 by Winston Royce. Right, so your first step is requirement, then your system design, your implementation, system testing, system deployment, and system maintenance. Right? One must be completed before 2, 2 must be completed before 3. Right? Your gathering stage is where details requirements of the software system to develop are gathered from the client. The client is the person who is paying you to develop the software. The design stage is to plan which program language you're going to use, like example Java, PHP, right? Or any other high level technical details of the project. Right, the technical details is security, etc., etc. Right. After the design stage is the build stage. This is the also known as the coding stage, where nothing but coding is being done here. only coding is being done. Right, the test stage is where you test the software to verify that it's built as per the specifications given by the client. Right, the deployment stage is deploy the application in respective environment, and we all know what the maintenance stage is. The maintenance stage is basically upgrading, bug fixing, and enhancement. The advantages of the waterfall model is before the next phase of development, each phase must be completed. Suited for smaller projects where requirements are well defined, they should perform quality assurance tests, verification and validation before each stage. A verification and validation is done by people who are programming or coding or a system developers. Right? The disadvantage is errors can be fixed only during the phase. So if there's an error in phase 3, you can only fix the error during that phase. You can't go back because the whole point of the waterfall model is to make sure everything is done before you move on. It is not desirable for complex projects where requirement changes frequently because the waterfall model is like a fixed way of doing things. Once you finish step 1, step 2, you can't go back, right? And the testing period comes quite late in the developmental process, right? If a project is usually takes 2 months in the first if a project takes 2 months, the testing stage is probably done in like the 8th week, the last week of the second month, because of how much time is put into each phase before it is complete. Reasons for using the waterfall model. Requirements are not changing frequently. That means the requirements doesn't change because we all know you can't go back to change stuff in the waterfall model. Application is not complicated and big. The project is short. Requirement is clear. When they say the project is short projects are usually like 1 to 4 months. Long projects usually 6 to a year. Alright? The environment is stable. And technology and tools are not dynamic and is stable. That means the technology and the tools do not change and it always remains the same. Resources are available and trained. Those are the people who are developing the system. The spiral model. The spiral model is a combination of the waterfall model and the iterative model. Each phase in a spiral model begins with a design goal and ends with the client reviewing the progress. The spiral model was first mentioned by Barry Boehm in his 1980 paper. The development team in the spiral model starts with a small set of requirements and goes through each development phase. The software engineering team adds functionality for additional requirement in every increasing spiral until the application is ready for the production phase. Alright, this little diagram here shows the spiral model. Alright, and in the phases it is from light green straight to dark green. So the system maintenance, right, this will be on the outside, right, because this is not as important, and the more important stuff is inside of the spiral, right? The spiral model phases planning. It includes estimating the cost, schedule, and resources for the iteration. It also involves understanding the system requirement for continuous communications between the system analysis and the computer. Right, the spiral model in the picture you showed before, the reason it is a spiral is because communication is always happening between people. Always, right? Risk analysis. Identification of the potential risk is done, while risk mitigation strategy is planned and finalized. It includes the engineering part. It includes testing, coding, and deploying software at customer side. Evaluation of software by the customer also includes identifying and monitoring risks such as the schedule slippage and cost overrun. The cost overrun is if your system goes over your potential budget. The advantages of the spiral model are additional functionality or changes can be done at a later stage. Estimation becomes easy as the prototype building is done in a small fragment. Continuous or repeated development helps in risk management. Development is fast and features are added in a systematic way. The disadvantages are risk of not meeting the schedule or budget because you're always doing changes in it, because communication is always being done in the spiral model. It works best for large projects only, also demands risk assessments expertise. Right? For its smooth operation, spiral model protocol needs to be followed strictly, so there is no deviation when doing the spiral model. Right? Documentation, it is more as it has intermediate phases. So every phase has documentation. Right? Every phase. When to use the spiral methodology? When the project is large, when releases are required to be frequent, when creation of a prototype is applicable, when risk and cost evaluation is important for medium to high risk projects, and when requirements are unclear and complex, and when changes may require at any time. Also, when long-term project commitment is not feasible due to changes in economic priorities. This long statement just means the project doesn't change. The spiral is only used when projects will not change due to stuff happening in the economy. Right, the project cost management is defined as the process of approximating the total expenditure of the project. Right, this is you need to be very accurate with the estimation on your accuracy and details of the project scope. Right, the scope will also define any constraints like date, resources, or budgets. The risk register will help to calculate estimate types of costs, the expenses made behind the contingent action, and the expenses made to cope with the risks. To estimate the cost of a project, you have to categorize various cost types into categories like labor costs, equipment costs, and cost of supplies, travel costs, training costs, overhead costs, etc. Techniques used to estimate project costs. To estimate project costs formally, there are a few methods used as follows. The analogous estimating. This estimating technique is based on expert judgments and information based on similar previous projects. Where previously done similar project cost is considered with plus or minus 20% for existing project. To break it down, this is, let me say we're doing project A, but we have to do another project as project AB. We will either add or minus cost because we have already done project A, and to do project AB, right, the cost will determine if we can, how much upgrades we can do. The parametric estimating. Past data or record is used to estimate cost of the current project. So at my job, for example, we are trying to introduce another cash register, right? This is not due to computers or anything, but it's like a real life example, right? We know that one cash register costs 5,000, right? But we want to upgrade the cash register, right, to a stronger, more durable cash register. So in this way, due to the past data of the first cash register, we will know that we have to add at least $2,000 or $3,000 for a better cost estimating. The bottom-up estimating. Once you have defined the scope of the project, it is the most reliable form of technique. And this technique, based on WBS, you estimate the cost for each resource of deliverables. Security and the life cycle model. In the end, as in the case with most engineering and software development practices, the earlier in the process a component is introduced, the better chance for success, lower development costs, and reduced rework. Information security control conception, development, implementation, testing, and maintenance should be conducted concurrently with the system software lifecycle phases. This approach is conceptually shown in the figure below. Alright, you have your physical design and implementation, the design, analysis, deployment, and the maintenance change. Your testing issues. Testing of the software models or unit testing should be addressed when the models are being designed. Personnel separate from the programmers should conduct this testing. The reason people other than the programmers should do this testing is because the programmers, it's like this, right? It's like when you're cooking food, the chef will always think it tasting good, but if somebody else tastes it, they will find it missing something. That is the reason why programmers, the person who are coding, shouldn't conduct this testing. The test data is part of the specifications. Testing should not only check modules using normal and valid input data, but it should also check for incorrect types, out of range values, or other bounds and or conditions. This is an example of this is a password, right? You give you a boundary on how much letters it should be, how much characters it should be, how much numbers it should be, right? And live or actual field data is not recommended for using in the testing procedures, because you need to fill it with dummy data in case you get an error, right? You should because you do not want accurate or correct outputs when you are testing data. Testing data should just be random facts and figures, right? A special test suits of data that exercise all parts of the software to the fullest extent. This means you can put a variety of numbers that people in the real world will never use, right? Numbers like 1 million and billion, negative numbers, etc., etc., right? You want to test how good your system is by using data people will never use in the real world. Alright, and this is the end of my video. I hope you all understand. Please leave messages, comments if you don't understand anything.